mine is one of struggle and perseverance on behalf of Reggie. What meaning does Reggie's story have for your understanding of the struggle that the students at Shepherd face, as well as the teachers who show up every day to teach them?
One of the things I don't think that they don't face is the racism.
Yeah.
Like as much because it mostly is Latino, but like there's never anything pointed out about the blacks. I don't know about like in your room, but like they're never like, oh, that's the black kid or like that's the black girl.
Yeah,
or
we
boy.
only have
like,
one black kid in my class, and it's never even. I mean, they're in first grade,
Yeah.
but it's never
even.
I've never even like thought. Yeah, I don't even think that the kids even like realize it. Really. Do you have black kids in your class?
Yeah, there's one or two.
Because I would think if it was there, it would be with the older grades.
But they don't even say anything. But it's funny that when we talk about like the one book we're reading or something, like I read them at the end of the day, it says something about like how it says something about like the white people and stuff. Like it talks about like the different races, and they'll be like, that's racist, and we're like, no, it's not. Like it's not saying anything bad. It'll just be like the white people and the black people, and they're like, they can't say that, but it's really not racist. But I mean, I think they understand what it is, like my kids at that age. But
well, because I was gonna say too, even like with us being here, like if they saw racism outside, they could look at us and be like, these white girls. But
and I have this one boy the other day, we were talking about something. He was like, well, all white people are rich. I was like, no, they're not. He was like, yes, they are. Every white person I know is rich, and they're like, you're rich, Mr. Troutner's rich. I'm like, no, we're not. Like, I think they
just
think that.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, everyone I know that's white, they have money and they have this and that. And I'm like, well, it's not. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not like that.
Yeah. All right. What meaning does Reggie's story have for your understanding?
Oh, that story was crazy.
I thought it was like one of the best chapters of the whole book.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I was not expecting.
Like
I don't know. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it does happen. Like I'm sure police brutality does happen in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
But I mean, you'll never hear about it. I mean, we would never hear about it. You know, people in the neighborhood might, but
and again, I think our kids are too young for something like that to happen. Like in high school or something like that, maybe you would see that, but
I think if anything, the only way that they would like know about it is like if it happened to their parents or something like that. But I've never really had any of my kids like talk about the cops.
Ever. Yeah, no.
Ever.
I think I don't have any kids in my class, and I don't really think it's a big struggle with like fitting in yet. Like he always felt like he didn't fit in, and like try different things like wrestling and whatnot. Yeah. I think that happens like 5th, 6th grade. I mean, there are kids that'll be like, "You're not my friend." Like they do that stuff, but I mean, they really don't even know who's their friend and who's not their friend type of things yet. So. Like more in your class, like they might be a little bit more divided, but I don't feel like any of my kids have the struggle of fitting in.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like kids will fight and all, but it's not like
they all kids are going to.
They forget about it literally 5 seconds after it just happened. So, but I mean, just like reading this and just thinking about the area, like as teachers that come, I guess we just always have to remember that like. Even though that's something that seems so, like, out of anything that we would ever experience or think about, like, and just, like, a lot of the stuff we have to talk about, it's just important to remember that, like, that might happen.
Yeah.
When we leave our kids at the end of the day, like, the reality of it is they might come back the next morning and be like, this happened to me, this happened to me, this happened to me.
Or they saw it happen.
Yeah, or I saw it happen, or it happened to my brother or my uncle. And it's just, like, as a teacher, you always have to, like, not let your guard down and think, okay, my student's in first grade, like, nothing like this could ever happen to him because he's 6 years old. Because the area that they live in, it could happen, or they could see it right in front of them.
I think as a teacher, it's really important to do what Mr. Mitchie did. Like, he stuck up for that kid to the last end. Like, he was there through every, interview and everything. That Reggie and that whole group of people, that stuck by him. Like,
well, it seemed like it brought them closer too.
Yeah.
Like him and the other students.
Like they went through it together, and Mr. Mitchie, made sure something happened and made sure
Yeah.
something was done about it. And I think that, as teachers, we face that challenge all the time because kids say the darnest things and kids can be telling us, I hear blood and hitting in every single day. Like,
Yeah.
my kids will just come in and then my parents will be like, well, just watch because they're fibbers and they lie about a lot of things. So my
Yeah.
parents, they have to tell me because the one little girl lies about everything.
Oh,
She'll
really?
just make up stories out of her, like, right then and there. And then, and then I have to, based on my judgment, like,
Yeah.
do I believe
But
it?
then
Do
again,
I
how
have
would
to
they just
say
come up
it?
with something like that? They're
I
so
know.
young. How do they
I mean, it
know
has to be
make
something
that
that
up?
they hear.
Or
Like, that's what I
see.
always talk to my mom about. Like, I didn't know what this was or this was or this was in first grade. And my mom was like, well, even if they don't know what it is, like, they're hearing that
Yeah.
from somewhere, whether it's the TV that the parents have on in the background or something that the parents actually saying. Like, my mom was like, they don't just come up with that in
Yeah.
their mind. Like,
They learn
they're
it from
still
somewhere.
so young that anything they're saying, like, they've heard from somewhere before.
Yeah, and we're faced with that every day, and we have to,
Yeah, like my students, a lot of the boys know all about guns and different kind of
Yeah.
guns. I'm like, I didn't even know. Like, they know like the names for them, and they're like telling me. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about
Yeah.
right now. Like,
And so it's like they must see those guns at home or hear their
Somebody
older
talk
brother or
about-
their uncle or somebody talking about them to know what they are. So as teachers, we just always have to remember that, like, yeah, they are in first grade and kindergarten and they're little and innocent, but like they're still here. Those things are still like going into their brain, even if they're not sure what it is. It's still something that they're hearing.
One of the most important things I think I've learned in Shepherd is that expect anything. Like, you could think it's going to be the greatest day
Yeah.
in the world, and it just goes the total opposite way. So, like, that's, I come in every day prepared. Like,
Yeah.
all right, what's today going to bring? What's today going to throw at me? Like, I can't expect every day to be a good day or every
Yeah.
day is going to be a bad
perfect.
day,
Yeah. And I think it's just too a lot like we've talked about before, like being able to take a moment and make it into a teachable moment, like how it brought in the book, it brought them all closer together. Like Mr. Minchie could have handled it in a totally different way, or everyone involved could have handled it in a totally different way, and it would have went completely different. So you have to like always use your best judgment.
And I think Mr. Messi did a really good job of filling that little bit, even though Reggie still feels lonely. It's like all the time. Like for him showing up to that wrestling match, like that had to mean so much to him, whether he won it or lost it. Like having somebody there for him, like
Just a little extra
things,
bit.
like little things like that we don't think about. We haven't dealt with yet, like things like that. Like I'm sure sooner or later, years down the line, we'll have kids say we're teaching a third grade. Then they're in eighth grade and they're in a basketball game. They're going to want to, might ask us to show up something like that. So I think it's like there's challenges that we haven't faced yet. It might happen in a year. That might happen in 5-10 years. That,
And I
things change
mean,
all the
like when
time.
you think back and think about your favorite teachers and like the teachers even whose just names you remember are people that like were there for you, that did that little extra bit,
Yeah.
that
Impact.
showed up for one thing that you didn't expect anyone to show up for, or
And
that let you eat lunch with them one day. It's like you remember the teachers that did just that little bit
Little thing.
extra.
Yeah.
And it might have even seemed like nothing to the teacher. Like, sure, you can stay. Even like, yeah, you can stay after and clean the board or clean the tables. Like, it
Yeah.
seems like nothing, but some kids, like,
They need
to
that
them,
extra,
that's what they need.
that
Yeah.
one-on-one, that little bit
Attention.
of time,
Yeah.
attention, absolutely. Yeah. All right, sound good?
Yep.